Hello and what's up, political peeps? Per usual, I'm your host, Arif Kapoor, and today I'm with the senior U.S. Senator from the great state of Connecticut, the ranking member of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, Democrat Richard Blumenthal here in Fairfield. Senator,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you on the show. First and foremost, I want to give a huge thank you to our hosts today, Operation Hope, here in downtown Fairfield. Executive Director Fernando Muniz was kind enough to come in on the eve of America's 250th birthday to give us the space to use in the conference room here at Operation Hope's food pantry. So we're very grateful and we're excited to dive in with you, Senator.
I am excited to be here, and I want to thank Operation Hope as well. It does such great work for the people of Fairfield County, and I've been very proud to support it. I'm honored to be here today, and I want to thank the great staff, volunteers, board members, everybody involved in Operation Hope, because you truly do wonderful work.
Yes, thank you, Senator, and thank you, Fernando, once again. All right, well, just to dive in, when I was researching for our episode, I always talk to my guests about how, their early career growing up, how that kind of influenced the position they're in. You're U.S. Senator now. You have a very, very interesting career in generations. You went to Harvard, and then you went to Yale with President Clinton, Secretary Clinton, and Justice Clarence Thomas were all part of your class. Later, you assisted Senator Daniel Moynihan and Senator Abraham Wibkoff from here in Connecticut. You also worked with President Nixon and Supreme Court Justice Harry Blackmun. So you really have a distinguished career. Then you served as the Connecticut Attorney General for 20 years, U.S. Attorney under Jimmy Carter. Just to summarize this amazing, probably one-of-a-kind political career, what would you say is the most developmental part of your journey that brought you to where you are today as a senator?
Well, the most impactful part of my journey was my parents. My dad came to this country in 1935. He was 17 years old. He came alone to escape persecution in Germany. He spoke virtually no English. He knew no one, and he had not much more than the shirt on his back. And this country gave him a chance to succeed. And he and my mom, who was a social worker, gave my brother and me the feeling that we have something to give back to the country, which is really what started me with the idea of public service in high school, and then in college, where I became involved in the school newspaper. I loved writing and reporting, but I wanted a more active way to give back and to contribute to the country. And so when I graduated from college, Daniel P. Moynihan, who subsequently became a senator, asked me if I wanted to work with him in the White House. It was Richard Nixon's White House. And in 1968, nobody could foretell what was going to happen with Richard Nixon, but I knew I loved Pat Moynihan. And he wanted to reform the welfare system, provide more housing, health care. And I knew that's what I wanted to work with him to do. And I went from the White House into the Marine Corps.
Yes.
I was in the Marine Corps Reserve. I went to Parris Island, and after that experience, I kind of started law school, first really not knowing whether I wanted to be a lawyer. But the formative experience for me was as a law clerk, particularly at the district court level with Judge John Newman, because I saw what happened in the courtroom. I witnessed what excitement there could be in winning and the difference it could make in people's lives. And that inspired me to want to be in the courtroom, and I became prosecutor, U.S. attorney. I went into private practice. I was in the state legislature, but I continued to be a lawyer and a litigator in the meantime, and then I became Attorney General of the state of Connecticut, which was really an immensely formative experience, probably the best job I've had.
Oh, wow. Even better than as a senator?
In some ways better than a senator, because as you know, as you can see, there's a lot of gridlock and dysfunction in Washington, and you depend on 99 other people to get anything done, or more than 99 people. As a attorney general, I could make decisions, go to court, often win, as we did against big tobacco, against Microsoft, against other big corporations, against drug companies that failed to give people what they needed, against insurance companies when they broke the law or violated people's rights. And it was enormously rewarding, especially one by one, individuals, helping everyday people, Social Security checks, veterans benefits, much as I do now with individual constituents, but it really was a very formative and rewarding experience.
Yes, and then that brings you to the next chapter in your journey, right? In 2010, you ran for U.S. Senate. Specifically, what led you to make that shift for higher office? Especially now that you think that you would rather go back to your days as Attorney General.
No, I wouldn't say that I want to go back. And you can have wonderful jobs and decide,
yes,
you know, you have fulfilled the potential for what you can do in those jobs. And to be really bluntly honest, what led me to become a U.S. Senator was the retirement of one of the senators in the job, Chris Dodd.
And you were the logical replacement?
Well, there's no such thing as logic in politics.
Okay, that's good to know.
I was well positioned to do it. I was well known. And my mantra was that I was going to continue to fight for the people of Connecticut in this job, which is what I think I've done, fighting for the people of Connecticut against the corporations, big tech, big pharma, big tobacco, standing up for people in their interests, not the political donors or the lobbyists or the corporations, is what I have found so rewarding about this job. And I could see how I could do it in the Senate job, much as I did in the Attorney General job.
And so you started mentioning this here, you know, specifically the steps you take as a senator every day in Washington, D.C., when you're running around the district like you are today, to represent the people of Connecticut, to fight for the people of Connecticut. So I was to myself thinking about what is the best way to discuss like the tens of different issues that we could address: immigration, ICE, abortion, Ukraine, firearms. Right? There's tens of issues that you are passionate about and you fight for the people of Connecticut on behalf of about. So I think, given your tenure in the Senate, instead of talking about individual issues, you are better suited to talk about how the Senate and how Congress deals with issues that affect every American, especially today when Congress's approval rating is unfortunately at an all-time low, 10% in the recent Gallup News poll, which is even lower than the approval rating of President Trump's, which is currently like in the 38 to 40% range, which is known by people like you to be historically low for the presidency. To me, that indicates systemic issues with the way that the Senate works and the way that the Senate represents the American people. So, my first question for you on your current role is, why do you think that the Senate doesn't do a good job of representing American people like it did 10 years ago or 20 years ago?
I'm not sure it did 10 or 20 years ago. That is an open question.
I should say like it was designed to do.
It was designed to be what is called the saucer in a cup of tea, to cool the heat that was supposedly going to come with a representative body like the House of Representatives, which would yield to literally the controversy or the heat of the moment. So the founders made it much more difficult to pass anything. And they made it much less responsive to people. Remember, the United States Senate for decades was not elected by the people.
Right.
It was chosen by the state legislatures. And to come right to your point, why is it less effective than it should be?
Yes.
Which is a real question. There are many answers. Number one, the critical impact of campaign finance, the way that a lot of elected representatives these days are beholden to contributors. Number two, the strength of the extremes, the base of each party.
Right.
Not extreme, but the importance of listening to the people who really are most active.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also the news cycle, 24 hours a day, everybody's responding to the news of the moment.
The optics.
And positioning,
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's a nice way to put it. Every day I go to work, I try to do something bipartisan, literally.
Mm-hmm.
I am working on child internet safety, the kids' online safety bill, passed the Senate 91-3 in the last session. Then Speaker Johnson wouldn't give it a vote. It would provide more protection for kids on the internet against the toxic content like bullying, eating disorders that is now driven at them by algorithm. I worked on bipartisan legislation there with Marshall Blackburn of Tennessee. On Ukraine, I've helped to lead the effort to apply sanctions to Russia.
Yes.
We have 85 co-sponsors, Democrat and Republican. I've worked with Lindsey Graham, my co-leader in that effort, Republican of South Carolina. I could give you many more examples of bipartisan action. That's what I try to do because, frankly, nothing happens without bipartisan support.
Yeah.
On veterans, where I'm the ranking member of the Veterans Affairs Committee, I have a bill, it's called the Major Richard Starr Act, which
Mm-hmm.
corrects a grave injustice in our current system. Because right now, if you are a combat injured veteran and you leave the military before 20 years, you are docked dollar for dollar in your retirement pay for every dollar in disability benefits. In other words, every dollar you receive in disability benefits is deducted from your retirement pay. That's just unjust, it's wrong, unconscionable. And again, I have a bipartisan bill. It's been co-sponsored by more than 80 members of the United States Senate. I'm very hopeful that some of these measures will pass.
Yes.
So I couldn't go to work in the morning if I didn't have that hope,
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't have that objective. And I am continuing to hope we can get more done.
Right. So you mentioned bipartisan support, and that's something you strive for every day when you wake up in the morning. But I think the part of the frustration with Congress is that it often maintains the status quo, right? Even with continuing resolutions for budgets, it's whatever can be brought together at the last minute. Or with the filibuster, it's something that's yelled about from both sides of the aisle. Republicans will call on Leader Thune to abolish the filibuster and pass the Save America Act and pass this, and this. And then there are moderates that say that, we should, not do that and come to a compromise. But when a compromise can't be met and you can't even pass basic bills like, the seemingly common sense stuff that you're talking about here, right? Giving veterans, combat injured veterans, full pay. What are your thoughts on removing the filibuster?
Well,
Senator?
we've done more than you may think. For example, on veterans, we passed the PAC Act,
Mm-hmm.
which provides benefits for individuals exposed to burn pits and other toxic chemicals. We customarily do the National Defense Authorization Act, providing pay
Mm-hmm.
for our troops, military defense. We should be able to do other things, but let me just give you an example. We passed a housing bill,
Yes.
overwhelmingly.
Mm-hmm. In both chambers.
In both chambers. We need more housing. I'm very proud that I helped to lead it. Where is it now?
On the president's desk, right?
It's on the president's desk. Why? Because the president of the United States said, I'm not signing this housing bill unless you pass the SAVE Act. And you know what the SAVE Act does. In effect, it purges voter rolls. It requires states like Connecticut to submit those voter rolls to the Department of Homeland Security. In fact, Trump has issued an executive order that says the United States Postal Service will not deliver mail ballots to you if your state does not provide those voter rolls so they can purge them, looking at information they have about immigrants, without telling the immigrants, without giving them a chance to respond, even if they're citizens, and most especially if they're citizens, and Donald Trump thinks they're not going to vote the right way. We live in an age of total disregard for the rule of law.
Yes.
Never in my lifetime, and in my entire year of public service, have I seen the rank disregard for the rule of law, or, and here's the other reason we're in such bad shape right now, such corruption.
Yeah.
The President of the United States made, you know how much?
I don't have the figure, no.
$2.2 billion last year. That's not his wealth. That's how much he made. That was his income, $2.2 billion at a time when Americans are struggling to make ends meet. We're in here in Operation Hope. And I'm looking around and I see, you know, the stuff that food banks need.
This is the need.
Because they can't afford to buy food. People are struggling to make ends meet, put food on the table, buy groceries and gasoline, rising prices. And the chaos you're seeing in Washington is largely due to Donald Trump. But of the 2.2 billion, 1.4 billion, that's income, comes from, guess where?
Stocks?
Cryptocurrency.
Oh, okay, cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency. Donald Trump said the other day, you know, I did a great job on the stock market. That's why I'm
Well, that is, right?
making so much money.
That's part of it.
Tiny part for him. For the rest of us, we don't invest in crypto. At least I don't. I don't invest in the stock market much. At least I don't. I have a kind of a trust, and I don't have anything to do with it. I don't know what they're doing. So, you know, the rank corruption. And on the crypto, a lot of that income came from World Liberty Financial, his crypto venture with his sons, Donald and Eric, and with Steve Witkoff's sons. He's the special envoy. And a lot of the money came from the UAE. They bought a 49% stake in it. Anyway, that's potentially against the law because the Constitution says people in public office shouldn't benefit from foreign payments or benefits. What I'm saying to you in total is he has bred a cynicism and dysfunction, a contempt for the rule of law on the part of my Republican colleagues who have refused to stand up to him, many of them. And I'm hoping, and I apologize for being so long-winded, but
Don't apologize. It's fascinating to hear from you, your perspective.
I am hoping that the Trump dominance here will be like a fever, and the fever will break. And my Republican colleagues will stand up as they see the elections approaching and disavow some of this stuff.
Because I think whether or not you agree with what the steps President Trump is taking, you clearly don't, you know, it's divisive and polarizing, and that's not helpful. Just to go back to my original question there, on the filibuster, do you think that's yay or nay? Would you think that in 2028, if Democrats do regain the majority in the Senate, which you know is definitely a possibility, and win the White House, is saying no to the filibuster, you know, a possibility?
It's a possibility, but I doubt it will happen. I think a lot of people come to the Senate and they say, what's wrong with majority rule? Let's abolish the filibuster,
Right.
the 60-vote threshold. And then what you see is fundamental rights potentially being at stake. Republicans have voted again and again and again to, in effect, decimate reproductive rights. Roll back the clock on reproductive care. And of course, the Supreme Court, because Donald Trump was able to confirm his nominees who pledged to abolish Roe v. Wade and reverse it.
We took the
Now,
filibuster away on judicial nominees, right?
Exactly. And so what we're seeing now is judicial nominees who are, in my view, my humble opinion, they are politicians in robes. Their decisions are driven by the politics of the moment and MAGA. And I think it's a grave threat to our nation. It never used to be that the nomination process was this political. Under Republicans, and I watched very closely as Attorney General, both Presidents Bush, as well as Clinton and Obama, they tried to basically make the judiciary non-political. The judges should be above politics, and they shouldn't be looking to election results to determine how they're going to rule.
And I think this all goes back to a growing trend of polarization across the country, right? And I think whether it be judges, whether it be the Department of Justice, executive officials, primary elections, the media, they reward the extremes, right? We saw in New York 2 Tuesdays ago, 3 new socialists, Democratic socialists, won their primaries. Across the country, President Trump endorsed MAGA warriors are winning their primaries over moderate Republicans. What do you think that this polarization means for your party? Brad Lander, Claire Valdez, and Darlisa Avila Chevalier won primaries and are going to be joining your ranks as Democrats in Congress.
What I'm hearing as I go around Connecticut is people want leaders who will fight for them. What people tell me again and again and again is, thank you for fighting. Thank you for fighting against the giant corporations, against insurance companies, against big tech, against big pharma. Thank you for standing up for us and our interests. I don't think you can generalize or nationalize the results of one constituency, one congressional district, and say that's the way it's going to be for the whole country. It's a very big and diverse country.
It's come to Connecticut, right? Josh Elliott is primarying Governor Ned Lamont. You endorse Ned Lamont, who's an establishment Democrat. Do you consider yourself an establishment Democrat?
I don't think those labels really apply. I think what applies is, and what people are asking us to do, is to fight for them, stand up for them. Stand up for them against Donald Trump, which I have been doing. Be more aggressive. You know, there's a very exciting energy out there, and we ought to use it as a way to involve more people and engage them, because the real fight ought to be against Republicans or others who want to roll us back in terms of the rights we have, or are failing to provide better health care. I've endorsed Medicare for all.
Right.
Bernie Sanders, I was one of his original co-sponsors. I've endorsed the Green New Deal, again, with Bernie Sanders as one of the original leaders. I've stood against the polluters and other special interests, against the lobbyists and the lawyers and connected people who were, in effect, selling pardons. I think that we need to stand up for everyday Americans, because they have a feeling that the opportunities that maybe their parents had and maybe they had are not going to be there for their children.
But I think we have to acknowledge at the same time, right, that, well, everybody, especially Democrats, right, with the Trump administration in the White House, have a goal of going and protecting Americans, supporting their constituencies. There's a difference between you, as a longtime Democrat, and Zohran Mamdani. Do you acknowledge that difference?
We have different opinions. I have different opinions.
And do you think that's the right direction for your party?
I don't generalize from anybody else. Literally, I consider myself a progressive Democrat who fights for people. But I don't really...
You won't call him a socialist or condemn socialism?
If he wants to call himself a socialist, fine. He is one leader in one city, and New York has always marched to its own drummer.
Very much so.
It is in many ways an iconic, wonderful city, but it has its own constituencies, and Connecticut is different. We're not a homogeneous country. No other leader, for example, Roy Cooper in North Carolina, is very, very different than Mamdani. And so are many of the Senate candidates whom I am working to elect, because I think Democrats have to work to take back the Senate. I have nothing against Republicans. Some of my best friends and my family members are Republicans.
Oh, good to know.
But it isn't the Republican Party that we have right now, which is a Trump cult.
It goes back to those extremes. The one thing that I think is fascinating about the only good part that is coming out of this rise in extremism from both sides, I think, is that there's a lot of young people who are getting involved in politics, and running this podcast, bringing the geopolitical to my school, to my community. The purpose and my goal of getting my peers involved in politics has been something I've been passionate about for a long time. So you see Zohan Mamdani, young guy, whether or not you think that you agree with what he has to say, I think that's a statement. So given your experience in politics for quite a long time now, you're the generation that can educate people like me to go on and fill the seats when you move on. What's your advice to young people?
More than educate, provide opportunities.
What's your advice to young people, my generation, if I want to make my voice heard?
Start working. Start working. Do what you're doing.
Yes.
These questions are absolutely excellent.
I hope I'm not being too mean.
No. These questions are really right on. And the last one you asked is one of the most important. I referred earlier to the energy. It's young people getting involved. That's a big part of the energy. But people of all ages have suddenly realized that democracy is at risk. It's hanging by a thread. Donald Trump will stop elections if he's given the chance. He's trying to nationalize, that's his word, elections, by purging voter rolls, by intimidating poll workers, by sending FBI agents to Fulton County and other polling places, investigating his made-up possible wrongdoing, no evidence of it, and discouraging people from voting. I often go to the immigration naturalization ceremony where people become citizens, and I say, democracy is not a spectator sport. You need to be engaged, you need to vote, but also be critical.
Right.
Tell Blumenthal you don't agree with him on stuff. Get out and work for political candidates. So when you say what advice, I would say get engaged. I started by working in the campaign, first Pat Moynihan when he was running for the U.S. Senate, but the time that I really became engaged was in Stamford, Connecticut. I worked as a campaign manager for the local state representative, state house. And as I saw what he did and the way he campaigned, I thought to myself, I could do this. You could do it. So could a lot of other young people. So get the experience, get engaged, feel passionately. Even if you disagree with me, get involved on issues where you disagree.
Right, otherwise how will change happen?
How will change happen? And as I tell the new citizens, how would we get better? My dad, as I mentioned, came to this country as an immigrant. All his life he spoke with a German accent. He loved this country more than anyone I know, but he was also critical of it when he felt it should do better. When you're a friend of someone, you're not helping that friend by refusing to be critical, by saying everything is fine, you're perfect. The way we get better is constructive criticism.
Self-reflection.
Right.
So my last question, as we wrap up and talk about this next generation of leadership, I think it's been posed to every Democrat in every way, at least in the Senate. Do you have somebody that you're hoping represents your party at the national stage in 2028 for president?
I don't have a candidate yet.
You don't have a candidate?
There are probably 20 who are thinking about it, as you know. Some of them I know pretty well. Others, not so much. Cory Booker is a very close friend. I know almost not at all Newsom or Pritzker.
Josh Shapiro.
And I know Josh Shapiro because he was a former AG, but I don't know whether he'll run. And of course, Pete Buttigieg, I got to know somewhat when he was in the administration. I don't have a candidate.
We'll see in 2028.
Yeah.
All right. I know you have to go, Senator, and I know I've taken up a bunch of your time. I have a lightning round of questions, just one answer questions.
Sure.
I have 5 or 6 questions lined up, and then that'll be about it. First question: are you friends? You mentioned this before. Friends with any Republican senators or congressmen? If so, can you name one for me?
I was a very good friend of John McCain, and I regret his passing. I'm now, I would say, a friend of Jerry Moran, Roger Wicker. Jerry Moran is the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee. I'm the ranking member.
You
so
work
we
together?
work very closely, and I think we work well. You're
That's
talking
really good
about
to hear.
Republicans.
Republicans, yes. That's
Roger
good to
Wicker
hear.
is the chairman of the Armed Services Committee. We disagree, but we work well together.
I'm glad. Here in Connecticut, when you're looking for New Haven pizza, where are you going?
Probably Sally's.
So the Governor Lamont, refused to answer this question.
He refused to answer?
He refused to answer. Maybe it would have been too
Well,
controversial.
maybe I should have refused to answer.
It's on the record, Senator.
There's no going back. Can I reconsider? And
Sure. I mean, if you want to change it to Frank Pepe's, I guess that would be all right.
I love them all.
You love them all. I'm glad. What is your favorite way to get from D.C. to Connecticut? Do you take the train, drive, fly?
I generally fly on Mondays.
You fly on Mondays.
And often I will take the train back through New York. But
And then
I
drive
have
home.
all different ways. During COVID, I drove.
Okay. Makes sense. Your favorite part about the job?
Talking to people, helping individual people.
Thank you for helping me today. And your least favorite part?
Least favorite part is raising money.
I was working on Rob Blanchard's campaign, actually, and we had the state citizens election program deadline. So we were calling people, dialing for dollars the other day, and it's weird to ask people for money. So I get where you're coming from.
It's weirder if you're asking for yourself. I've found
I'm sure.
I am helping my colleagues right now because I'm not up till 2028. And in our system, we don't have public financing.
Right.
So the dollars that we're asking people to contribute are a lot bigger. But the small dollars really matter. One way or the other, it is always challenging, and I always feel badly asking people to contribute to my campaign. But it comes with the territory. Have to do it.
We appreciate that humility. Last question, on a session day, what time do we wake up and go to sleep, Senator?
I wake up at about 5. I exercise. I go to sleep. I try to get to sleep by 10:30, 11.
Much more disciplined than me.
I try to get to bed early, as early as possible, because I know I'm going to want to wake up and work out before I go to work.
Good for you, Senator. All right, political peeps, this was U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal, ranking member of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee.
So the next time we do this,
yes, sir.
You're going to come to Washington to my office.
Please.
And we'll give you a tour. I'll show you the stuff that we do down there.
Yes.
And maybe you'll get interested in running for Congress or the Senate.
I would, the joke around Fairfield, and I hate when people say it because I always say, oh, this is impossible. But my principal at school, I won an award graduating 8th grade, and she said to in this big audience, Arv wants to be Speaker of the House. So, well, that's my dream job. It's so far off.
Speaker of the U.S. House.
Speaker of the U.S. House. I always tell people don't talk about it. It's too, it's imaginary.
So I will tell you, we're recording this on July 3rd, the day before Independence Day,
birthday.
250 years. In America, nothing is impossible.
Hopefully that's true, Senator. I really appreciate
And
your motivational
your
words.
parents should be very proud of you.
Thank you, Senator.
And I'm very proud to be on your show.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you to Operation Hope for hosting. Thank you for taking the time. Political peeps, you know the drill. Peace out. Have a great day. Happy 250th birthday, America.